I'm here to tell you guys about the best shaving products I've ever used. They're over at oldpostroadoils.com. These guys sent me the shaving soap for men and the aftershave oil for men. Both are incredible. I have to say, the aftershave oil for men blew me away. It smells amazing, which is important, but there's no chemicals. It's all natural, and it's actually really good for your skin. It's not one of these things that burns or dries your face out. And let's face it, I'm 45 years old. It's time to make sure I'm taking care of my face so I don't look like an old man in a few years. But women, they've got stuff for you too. They've got rejuvenating oil for women and specialty soap for women. And I know a lot of you guys have beards. They've got the Old Post Road beard oil for men. So check this stuff out. It's really good. They've got hand and body wash and things like that too. I'm telling you, this aftershave oil for men is the best I've ever used. I highly recommend it. And these guys are a very small company, veteran owned, and they support this show. So they're going to give you free shipping when you enter promo code BUCK at checkout. That is BUCK, B-U-C-K, at checkout over at oldpostroadoils.com. Go check them out. Let's get to the show.
You are now listening to the Counterflow Podcast, a place for dissonant voices and unapproved opinions.
You get split in fucking half, cause I call the hologram graph, but I am the center inside the placenta of math. You clash with cyanide gas and die fast. Rhythmical equivalent of solids, liquid and gas. We smash your sinus with the power of Lorditis, but I am the virus inside of the iris of Cyrus.
Here is your host and humble narrator, Buck Johnson.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Counterflow Podcast. Great to have you with us once again. I should say right off the bat, thank you guys, because time is valuable. I understand that. And the fact that every week you let me into your life for about 45 minutes to an hour, I appreciate it. And on a week where I saw some Reddit threads about me by people, let's just say, that don't necessarily like me, they don't know me, but apparently some of the guests I've had on this show aren't up to par with some of my haters. So on a week where I see some, let's say, not so nice things said on Reddit, I also meet people in real life that were very complimentary. So it's been nice to hear the actual good people say nice things. And it got me thinking, that the fact that there's people I don't know that allow me into their life for an hour or so a week. And like I said, I know time is valuable. So I'm saying thank you at the top of this episode. I appreciate you guys. And this week, I've got my friend Mikkel Thorup back on the show. He's been on. It's been, I think we decided during this episode that it was in December of 2020. So it's been a little bit. And I know some of you have already left the United States or wherever you were at, maybe Canada. And some of you have this inkling in your mind and you think, well, if this happens, X, Y, Z, these things that you think could happen and it might happen, I'm leaving. And so I've got the foremost expert, the world's most sought after expat consultant on the show. And he's here to talk about, he's in Panama right now. He's been all over the world many times, lived all over the place. And he's basically here to talk to us about what it takes to get dual citizenship, what countries, what places, what locations might be good to leave the US or Canada and get to. And it kind of depends on, we get into this in the interview, he can tailor it for each person. What do you value? What are your hates? What are your loves? What do you need? What do you not need? And we go through all of that. Is Europe a good spot? Is Latin America a good spot? Like I said, Mikkel is in Panama. He thinks that's particularly for him a great spot, but maybe Costa Rica. So we go through all of that. Where's your red line? Where do you draw the line in the sand and say, I'm out, this is too much? Is it just moving from a blue state to a red state? Maybe that's the thing to do. So we get into all of that, the how, what, why, all of that good information here with Mikkel Thorup. And like I said, he is the guy to talk to, and he explains how you can reach out to him and he can tailor a plan towards exactly what you want. If you'd like to get out of here, what it takes to get out of here. Some of you are just thinking about the possibilities. So without further ado, Mikkel Thorup, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
Very good. I'm excited to be back. It's been a while since you and I have talked. So yeah, man, I'm excited for this. This is going to be good.
It was December 2020. And anytime I have you on, I would be remiss if I didn't say not only how are you, but where are you?
I am in Panama today. I'm doing excellent. And I'm in Panama today. Next week, we will be in Brazil. We're there for a week. And then we're going to go to Uruguay for a week. My first time in Uruguay. So we're excited about that.
For those who are new to my show, since you have been on, and again, that was December 2020. So it's been a little bit, but can you kind of just give a quick overview of what you do, and people will get to know that as we talk here, but you know a lot of stuff and you've been a lot of places. So kind of give a brief overview of that.
Sure. I work in the offshore markets. Basically, what I do for a living is I help mostly Americans and Canadians, but technically anyone from anywhere in the world, but mostly Americans and Canadians, leave the United States and Canada and go somewhere else. And we can get into all the reasons why someone might want to do this, the tax reasons, the privacy, the protection, the adventure, all of these types of things. But from a background, I've been living overseas as an expat for over 22 years now. I've circumnavigated the globe over 400 times. I've lived in 9 different countries. I wrote a best-selling book about it. I have a podcast called The Expat Money Show. I eat, sleep, and breathe expat living and offshore finances all day, every day.
Has the business of people contacting you to get out of the US and Canada picked up over the last few years, or is it kind of remain the same?
Yeah, it's gone through the roof. It's funny because, everybody has different breaking points. When COVID hit, I got a huge spike of people. And then now with war in Ukraine, I got another spike of people. When we had the Canadian truckers and Justin Castro reaching into people's bank accounts and taking money out, I had a rush of people. So it's just like everybody has their own breaking point of what is the final straw for them. But throughout all of this, I've been here. I've been working with my private clients. We've relocated tons of people to different countries. We've helped them save thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially on taxes, restructured their lives, gotten them second residencies, passports, a lot of things. But yeah, over the last 2 years has been crazy. So many people moving.
Let me say it this way. Can you help people stay in the US or Canada and figure out how to navigate within kind of the structures that are allowable, like maybe setting up something in a parallel system? Or is it basically you prefer that they leave and come to a different country?
All right, there's a lot to that question. There are things that we can do to move someone offshore, but still reside in Canada or the US. But if you're looking for, say, tax savings and you want to still live in the States, then you need to talk to a domestic CPA or a domestic tax lawyer who's going to understand the ways to legally mitigate your taxes. You're not going to be able to take advantage of a lot of the offshore tax structures and then still live in the US. It's not like you can have 1 foot off. But what you can do is you can live in the United States and set up what we would call like a backup plan or a safe harbor or, a second home somewhere overseas. So if things get really bad, and, for a lot of people, we would argue that it is really bad, you actually have somewhere you could go at any time. We just might not get a lot of the tax benefits with that, but we could get you a second house. We could get you an offshore safety deposit box or gold vault storage, so you have precious metals overseas, an offshore brokerage account or bank account, second residency, second passport. All of these types of things can all be done from the comfort of your home in the United States. Now, I have probably, I would say, about 50% of the people who are just looking for this plan B. And then the other 50% who are like, I am done. I'm out of here. They're selling everything and they're leaving. And massive amounts of not just capital flight, but human flight as well, like skilled, talented individuals who are leaving the shores of the United States and Canada and moving for greener pastures.
It seems, you said a lot of people have their breaking point, basically, but it does feel like we're one quote unquote emergency threat away from more and more drastic measures every time, and you never know when these are going to happen. But I will say it feels like they're going to happen sooner than it used to feel like. A lot of people aren't bothered by that at all. A lot of people actually kind of beg for some of these draconian interventions that you and I aren't fans of. But for those who do care, like you and I, and don't want to live under draconian authoritarian systems, whether it's digital or local governments not letting you do things, what's the first order of work and preparation that one of my listeners that tends to agree with you and I on these type of things should start moving towards doing, just in a preparation sense?
I think it all comes down to education. I think that a lot of people are super afraid of making these types of changes because they don't really understand what we're talking about. So first of all, you need to get educated. I mean, obviously, come and check out my podcast, The Expat Money Show. We've been going for 6 years. I've done 180 episodes, 190 episodes on there, mostly interviews, mostly long format. All of it's evergreen. That's like a bachelor's, master's, PhD, all rolled into one on a lot of these types of things. And that's completely free. Now, if you want to take a little bit further than that, I mean, you would want to start looking probably at different types of immigration processes, getting a second residency, getting a second passport. Now, the problem is that I can't really give individual advice. I can't say, oh, this is the best country or this is the best program. Because what might be good for you, Buck, is completely terrible for me or for any one of your listeners out there, So there are a lot of programs. There's a lot to understand, not just about the program itself or the costs that are involved, but also you have to think of the tax obligations from your home country. You have to look at the tax obligations for the country that you're moving to. You have to look at how much time you need to spend on the ground in that country to keep it active. We need to look at the processing time. What is the end result? If you do get the passport, where do you get to go with that passport? We call this visa-free travel. So there's just so many things to work through. That's usually why people want to work with me, because I do a custom, tailor-made plan based on exactly that person's needs. Because, I'll give you a couple of examples. I took 2 clients on last week, and the first one I sat down with and talked to, they said, all we want to do is go to Latin America. We want nothing to do with Europe. Tax is the absolute number one thing. What's the fastest residency and passport we can get in Latin America? 2 hours later or 3 hours later, I had a call with another new client. These were both first-time clients. Sat down with them. They said, all we want to do is go to Europe. Europe is the number one thing. We want to save on taxes, but it's not the most important thing. Lifestyle is the most important. We want history and culture and all of this. And I was laughing because I'm like, for me, tax is like an absolute massive thing. I don't want to spend $1 on tax. I've been pretty much tax-free for the last 20 some odd years. And that's a great feeling. I would never want to enter back into something like that. But for them, it was okay. They were happy to pay for it. We started looking at a place like Portugal, Spain, Italy, these types of countries, which was going to satisfy them from the lifestyle side. So, it really depends on the individual. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And that's a good, those 2 stories that's funny. I get the Europe attraction and the history and things like that. I don't get the tax part in Europe. it's for me, it's weird to hear like, well, we don't really care about that. I just saw someone I know that lives in Sweden was posting about gas prices, making fun of the U.S. for bitching about the gas prices. And she said something along the lines of, well, it's essentially $8 a gallon here in Sweden, and we don't mind it at all. We just know to buy electric. Like, she's cool with it. A lot of us aren't that way. So you
even have Elon Musk out there tweeting and saying, like, I think we need fossil fuels. Like, we better start fracking again and start getting this going because we're not ready here. The world is not ready for electric cars. So, I mean, I don't understand this mentality. People are delusional out there.
Yes, that's certain. Is a passport basically a pretty solid first step that you are going to need for the most part anywhere?
I mean, having a second passport is pretty much the ultimate insurance plan. And it's an insurance plan against your government. It's political insurance. I don't necessarily think it would be the first step. Sure.
Having a second passport, what do you mean by that?
All right. Well, you're going to have a passport from your home country. So if you're an American citizen, you're going to have a U.S. passport.
Okay.
Yeah. But if the U.S. government doesn't like you, or you are suspected, not proven in a court of law, not they have any proof of this. If you were suspected of owing over $50,000 to the IRS, they can confiscate your passport. So now you don't have a travel document, which means you're basically a prisoner inside the United States. If you have a second passport, now you have a lot more options. So a second passport would be becoming a citizen, a national of another country. And there's a number of different ways that you can go about this, and I'm happy to discuss them with you and with your audience. But yeah, I think having a second passport is a very valuable thing. It's not just the travel document. Citizenship is not just about the travel document, which allows you to leave and enter other countries. You can also think that it could get you into countries that your primary passport would not get you into. It can also open up investment opportunities in a foreign country, as well as owning foreign real estate or participating in their stock markets or other types of brokerage accounts. I mean, there's a lot of things to this. Protection from with that government, there's non-extradition policies. I mean, there's just so many things that being a national of multiple countries, it will allow you.
I love when these really cool companies offer to sponsor my show, and that's exactly what has happened with the Gold River Trading Company. It's only the best tea I've ever had in my life. The names alone will probably sell you guys on them. They've got the whole leaf 1776 American breakfast black tea. Then is my favorite, the gunpowder green tea, peach and apricot flavored, if you will. They've got peppermint green tea. Check this out. If you're stressed out in the evening and trying to mellow out, maybe even one of my episodes has raised your stress level, Gold River Trading Company has the chamomile herbal tea that's spearmint and lavender flavor, so you can kind of mellow out in the evenings. Give it a shot. Personally, I'm trying to quit drinking energy drinks in the afternoon, and now I've switched over to the gunpowder green tea for the pick-me-up. You know, I can actually pronounce what's in this. It's tea instead of all those crazy ingredients in my energy drinks. So, since they are sponsoring this show, I've got you a promo code. It's BUCK, B-U-C-K, at checkout. That will get you 10% off of your order. If you don't love tea, they've also got cocoa, so check that out as well. That's at goldriverco.com. It's for Gold River Trading Company, goldriverco.com. Promo code BUCK, B-U-C-K, will get you 10% off of your order. Reward these guys for reaching out and sponsoring shows like mine. Thank you guys. Let's get back to the show. Okay, well, let's go through a scenario then, and I'll just use myself. I'll say a few wishes, wants, dislikes, and kind of give my audience a version of how you could tailor something for them. Let's say I'm looking for a place with low taxes, with a culture that I can somewhat interact with, if that makes sense. Maybe some English speaking to where the language isn't completely a hindrance, and relatively crime-free, that sort of thing. And I'd like to get, I suppose, a second citizenship, I think is what you're saying, and a passport from that country in an affordable place too. Obviously, nothing that's going to break the bank here, but what sort of step would we take at this point?
Well, I would probably counter that with a couple of questions first. I mean, okay. I would want to be looking at your family heritage first. All right. If you have family from Ireland or Italy or Poland or a number of other countries in Europe, we might be able to get you a second passport for essentially free based on your lineage. So that would be probably where we would start at first. Then we would look at, all right, what if that doesn't work? If you say, nope, I'm a Heinz 57 and I'm none of these countries and it's not going to work. Okay, no problem. Now we'll start looking at, well, what is more important to you, the time or the money? Because If you have a lot of time and not a lot of money, then the process we're going to want to do is called naturalization. So we would want to move you to a country. You would spend a certain amount of time there. Maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years. I don't know. Depends on the country itself. And after that, and after you create strong ties to this country, you can apply for citizenship. After citizenship, you apply for your passport. The passport's just a piece of paper. It's just a travel document. The citizenship is really what we need. On another hand, say if you go, you know what? I don't have a lot of time. I don't have 5 years or 10 years to go through this. I want a passport and I want it yesterday. It's like, okay, let's look at citizenship by investment. There's 5 countries in the Caribbean that do citizenship by investment. There's one in the South Pacific. There's a couple in Europe. And that's about it. We have a pretty short list of going through these. Once again, on which one is the best or which one is going to fit these is going to be dependent on what your answers are. So if you were to say, you know what, I have a lot of time, but not a lot of money, and I want somewhere where I can get by and, you know, it's pretty safe and it's a pretty cool country, I'd look at a place like Panama, Costa Rica. Brazil's very cool. Their tax system is pretty crappy though. Colombia is possible. We have to look into the safety a little bit. Mexico is always a possibility as well. You're probably going to look north to south opposed to east to west. So Latin America versus Europe. So those are the kind of exercises that we would probably run through if if we were working together. Except we wouldn't do it in 5 minutes. We'd do it in 3 calls, probably a half a dozen hours, and going through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay. Are people with jobs that are, let's say, internet-based or computer-based, is that easier as far as moving to different countries rather than, let's say, a skill, a labor-type skill? Is it easier just to have a job where it's essentially online to do this kind of thing?
I would say yes in this instance, and I can give you a couple of reasons why. Let's take Panama, for example, because this is where I'm sitting today. Panama protects a lot of the careers in this country. So let's say that you are a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or an insurance broker. You're not actually able to practice in this country unless you're a Panamanian. Now, if you have an online business, if you're an online doctor and you do telemedicine and all of your clients are back home in the United States, then you shouldn't have any type of problem. But you're not going to be able to work at the hospital. You're not going to be able to open a clinic here, okay? Or if you just an online consultant or business owner or drop shipper or Amazon FBA or something like this, you have some type of online income and you come down here to Panama, well, as far as Panama cares, they don't worry about where your money is made. They don't really care at all, and they're not going to charge you any taxes on those types of things. Panama is what's called a territorial tax system. So they're really only going to be caring about money that is made inside the country. Now, you might think, well, I'm inside the country. Don't I make the money inside the country? They actually make a distinction with an online business, and if the clients are outside of Panama, then they don't care about them at all. So yes, long answer to a short question is yes, it does matter, or it can matter if you have a physical type of business and mandatory for you to be there in person. But at the same time, I would challenge you to start thinking creatively on how you can take your business and move it online. Do you have a book of business? Do you have clients? What happens if you switched from your normal 9-to-5 job and became a consultant for that company, start up your own company and outsource your work to them? Would they be okay with that? Probably going to save them money in the long run. They probably won't have to contribute to retirement accounts and health plan and all of these types of things. And you're still on the winning end because cost of living can be, I don't know, a quarter, half of what it is in the United States or Canada. And if you're getting rid of all of your taxes, then, you're golden. You should be loving life. So just try to be a little bit creative on how you structure your business and your career and your finances. There's a lot we can do through this.
Some of the recent actions, you mentioned Canada and Justin Trudeau, some of the recent actions up there, and it's been happening here in the States, it's happened in a quieter fashion. People don't realize it quite as much over the last 5 years or so. If you go against the regime, they can now freeze your bank account, and essentially you don't have any money. Is there a way, could we talk to you, my listeners talk to you about avoiding a situation that even puts you at risk for something like that? Are there financial institutions we can move our money to where there's no, I don't know if the word's oversight or authoritarian government that's going to step in and freeze your account because you peddle anti-regime propaganda?
I think that there is a lot that we can do. I mean, if the US government decides that, hey, Buck, we hate your guts and you smell and we're coming after you and that's it. I mean, they're pretty powerful. They can put a lot of pressure on things. But I think in normal instances, yeah, we can absolutely protect. We would probably want to be looking at, all right, off the top of my head, we'd be wanting to look at different types of bank accounts, foreign bank accounts, the currencies held in other types of currencies. So maybe Swiss francs or Great British pounds or something like this. We'd want to be looking at private vaults. So either 100% allocated or 100% segregated precious metals or safety deposit boxes. Then we can also look at different types of cryptocurrency, not just owning cryptocurrency, but what was your on-ramp? What is your off-ramp? Going to buy and sell. I'm not giving financial advice here by any means, but not doing it on a traditional exchange that has a ton of KYC and AML, know your customer and anti-money laundering laws. So if you go through these steps, you should be able to be a lot more private. At the same time, if you're doing things like opening them up in a company formation, whether that be an LLC, an IBC, a Panama Sociedad Anónimo, these types of things, you're going to have another level of protection and privacy. You can also looking at doing it in an offshore trust, so an asset protection trust or a private interest foundation. I mean, Panama, we do a private interest foundation here, and it's excellent. Now, there is disclosure for some of this stuff. You do have to tell the government if you have foreign accounts, and I'm not telling you not to do that. You have to work with a licensed CPA, and I highly suggest you work with someone who specializes in internationalization, not your neighborhood one, not H&R Block down the street. They just won't have this type of experience. That's why people usually come to me and we work directly with the CPA, with the lawyer to set all of this stuff up. So everything is 100% legal, 100% compliant. We do all of our filing, but there is anonymity and certain types of protection that come in place from that. We want to be looking at the laws of the country, not just the legal structure, but also the overall laws. Is it a civil law country or a common law country? Is the language English? Is the language something else? For example, here in Panama, we're talking about a civil law country, which is Spanish speaking. So if someone wants to bring a complaint against you, they're going to have to actually come down here to Panama, prove that the crime was done here in Panama or the offense was done here. Then they're going to have to try to understand civil law, which most likely they won't, which is completely different from the law that we're used to. And then they're going to have everything translated into Spanish if they don't speak Spanish themselves. So there's like many different layers to this onion. And we can even go further down the rabbit hole. You could have a Panama company that owns another company and that company owns your asset. So Panama Sociedad Anónimo could own a Cyprus company which has a Swiss bank account and you store your money there, or you do your brokerage account through Switzerland, through that. I mean, there's many ways to skin the cat. We can be a little bit creative with these things. But yeah, there are ways to protect yourself from government overreach, from creditors, from lawsuits, from failed marriages, from a stepbrother who drinks too much and decides that he wants to go after you and your wealth. I mean, there's just so many things that you need to watch out for, as sad as that is to say.
Have you studied at all this new central bank digital currency?
I've not. Unfortunately, it's not something I have looked into too much. My plan is to get an expert on the podcast.
Okay.
The little that I have read, I am not very optimistic about. My wife is from mainland China, so we've been following for years and years what's happening over there with very, very closely. And it seems to me like a lot of the other governments around the world are going, hey, that's a great idea. I think we should do this as well. More power, more control over the citizens, and trying to adopt these things themselves. So I don't think it looks good by any means, but I think that we as freedom-seeking libertarians and liberty lovers are getting more and more tools or weapons to protect ourselves every day. Whether that be legally, like the work that I do, like legal structures, or cryptocurrencies or DeFi or NFTs. And I'm not talking about music on NFTs. There's lots of other things that NFTs can be used for. So there's so many different things that are coming together. And I think there are more of us than there have ever been before. And I know that my business is absolutely going through the roof trying to help all of these different people. So we just did a huge party here in Panama. Technically, we're still in a pandemic and people are supposed to be scared to travel. I had close to 100 people fly down for my birthday party just to come out and celebrate me for one day. And everyone was super happy to do it. And the number one comment I got from people was how amazing it was to spend so much time with like-minded people. So we're bringing together the community, everyone's networking, everyone's learning from each other. They're learning new tricks, new techniques, new ways to protect themselves. And I think overall, it will protect us against these Fed coins and all of this.
Okay. How are the COVID requirements getting in and out of the United States, Canada, getting to some of the Latin countries? Because it seems to keep changing. How are they as we speak at this moment, just broadly, I suppose?
They're moving the goalpost on a daily basis. They get rid of everything and then they bring it back with a vengeance. I think it's like a pressure valve. And they figure they take everyone to the absolute max, but don't let people break. If they let people break, then we're going to have massive riots and civil unrest. And I think they have a very close eye on the pulse. They bring it as far as they can, and then they bring it back a little bit and let people catch their breath. And then when they push out again, they have a new max on what they're able to push. I've been seeing this over and over again for 2 years. And I don't think, like right now, as we're recording this, things do look like they're getting better. It's business as usual now. It's back to war. And they're dropping the pandemic narrative a little bit. But who knows what's going to happen in a month or 2 months from now? Maybe they sue for peace and then that goes away and then we have a new variant or a completely different disease that they're going to unleash on us. I am not a doomsday type of guy. I'm actually a really optimistic, positive, upbeat, happy guy. Happily married man. I got 2 amazing kids. My life is fantastic. I'm so thrilled to do the work that I do. And overall, I am very positive about the future and the direction that we're going. I think that these guys, whoever it wants to be, Economic Forum or powers that be or deep state or whatever you think is out there, I think that they've overplayed their hand. I think that they absolutely have overplayed their hand. And I think we just need to be strong enough while we work through this over the next several years or a decade or so. But I think that the pendulum will swing back and things will get better. But we have to survive right now. And that means setting yourself up to protect yourself for peace, for prosperity, being able to sleep at night. Don't get too stressed out about all of this stuff. Put yourself in a good position. That's my advice.
How helpful is crypto for someone trying to do exactly that, put themselves in a good position? Or is it, I understand it can be dependent on the individual and their circumstances, but there's still a lot of people that are concerned about where things are headed and are looking for kind of an escape route, if you will, and don't understand too much about crypto and are kind of thinking, it's just a bunch of fake things and it's as fake as our fiat currency in America. But what are your thoughts broadly on crypto and how helpful that is or not for people trying to let's say, set up a parallel life, if you will?
I think in my line of work and in my business, in my life, I think it is really important. I transact in crypto all the time. I'm very happy to take crypto for my services. I'm able to use it to pay for a lot of my services or staff or other products or things that I need for my business. It is quite easy to go in and out of crypto. There's many on-ramps and off-ramps. It's not just the big exchanges. We've seen a consolidation of a lot of these things, but there's still a lot of underground things. I mean, from an investment side, I mean, yes, a lot of it is very speculative, absolutely. And understanding which coins are going to do well and which are absolute crap. I mean, I'm not here to tell you those types of things, but I can tell you that the technology, it is here to stay. You can look at how the big companies are investing in it. Even companies like Visa, MasterCard have hundreds of patents in it. You can look at the big four accounting firms. They're starting to use crypto or want to use crypto in their accounting. So it'll be actually called triple entry bookkeeping. So they'll have one on the ledger, which will not be able to be changed. It's going to be able to get rid of a lot of fraud. You can look at some of the big conglomerates that have been fraudulent with emissions tests and all of these types of things. Crypto would have solved a lot of that. They never would have been able to do this creative work with the bookkeeping. I mean, so it is a weapon for us, a defensive weapon for us. But at the same time, there are big companies, like big multinational companies who are getting into this as well. It's not so underground as people might think. I mean, I've been in crypto for 6 years now. I'm still learning every day, and I've had so many people on the podcast to talk about these types of things. Courses and newsletters and hedge funds, and we do so much of the work in crypto with some of the brightest minds in the world on my program.
What's the biggest stumbling point you see when people, I mean, even for those of us who are in the mindset that the expat life is somewhat attractive, there's still mental hurdles, and you're thinking, man, I mean, there's mental hurdles. I lived in Austin and I moved to a small country town. It's 30 minutes away, but there was mental hurdles even for that. Like, oh my God, I'm not going to be in a big city anymore. So I can't imagine, it's a different country, different culture. What's typically the biggest stumbling blocks people have that you almost have to talk them out of when they want to do something like this?
The people who come to me, a lot of the people who have come to me have been listening to my program or reading my newsletter or bought my book years ago. And it's taken them 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get up enough courage or have enough pain points that they're actually willing to make a change. So usually when I start working one-on-one with people, they're highly motivated. Also understand, I charge a pretty decent amount on the front end to work with me, just to get on the phone with me. I don't just take random impromptu calls with non-paying clients. I'm only really interested in working with serious people because I want to actually see the results. I want to see people actually go through the transformation. I think that's an internal battle that a lot of people have, though, fear of the unknown. The only thing I can really say is try not to think about all the negatives. Try to think about all of the positives. I've lived in 9 different countries. My daughter was born in the Middle East. My son was born in Brazil. My wife is from China. I got married to her in Africa. We met in Germany. Like, we're a super international family, and we love this type of stuff. Like, it's exciting to us. It's not a negative. It's not like, oh, I don't get this. It's like, look at all these other amazing things that we do have. We get to learn new languages and meet cool people from all over the world, learn about different cultures, eat interesting and yummy food every day. Oh, and by the way, it's way healthier. The diet, the exercise, the standard of living, the sunshine every day. I mean, I'm from Southwestern Ontario. Do you think I want to go out there and shovel snow for 6 months of the year? I mean, that's brutal. I live in the tropics here. I'm down at the equator. I'm 5 minutes from the ocean. I like it. These are all good things for me, not negative things. So I don't know. That's my kind of answer on that one. But yes, it is an internal battle people need to work through.
My favorite sponsors and yours, PalomaVerdeCBD.com. They've got some new products that I will be telling you about. As always, I can tell you, Carlos and Vanessa, the owners of PalomaVerdeCBD.com, wonderful people. So when you buy from them, you're supporting a great couple that are like-minded, and it helps support this show that I know you love. Check out these new products. They've got the CBD massage oil. Let your mind wander on that one for a bit here. They've got the full spectrum unflavored CBD tinctures. Check this out, ladies. After a hard day at work, how does a CBD bath bomb sound to you? Well, they've got those now. They've got the CBD soft gels, of course, the CBD gummies, mint tinctures, the salve stick, and of course, the pet treats, the stuff that my French bulldogs, Lux and George, both use every morning. Now, you've heard me rave about the sports cream before. I'm going to read you something one of my friends and listeners wrote to me specifically about that. Last year, I gave my dad a bottle of the Paloma Verde sports cream as part of a present for his 86th birthday. He's very active, walking 3 to 4 miles a day, as well as working with a strength and conditioning coach. Still, his back often bothered him because, well, no prescriptions that he takes ever fixed it. Well, he found the Paloma Verde cream to be very effective in relieving the occasional discomfort. Last week, he slipped on some ice in his driveway and suffered from, thankfully, minor injuries, including his back. For 3 days, he was unable to sleep due to his back pain. He had run out of the Paloma Verde cream, so I gave him the link to the reorder. It arrived within a day or two, and he immediately began using it. He sent me this text the next morning after enjoying his best night's sleep in almost a week since the fall. Quote, "The cream application last night worked like a charm. I was pain-free in just about any position." Unquote. In addition, my sister, who was staying with him, was so impressed by his results that she ordered some for her husband, who regularly experiences leg pain at night. My dad resumed much of his regular activity and attributes much of his recovery to the Paloma Verde sports cream for the pain relief and just how much it helped him get the much needed rest at night. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a honest-to-God true statement. Someone wrote to me about this cream that I'm telling you, I always brag about how amazing it is. You will find it at palomaverdecbd.com, where you will get 25% off of your order when you use promo code BUCK at checkout. That's BUCK at checkout for 25% off of your order. Go support them and support this show. You will not be sorry. Let's get back to the show. Because it's, you know, I exercise and work out, and I try to eat somewhat healthy. Well, you know, it depends on the week sometimes, but often when people talk to me that I want to start working out, just working out, they'll find the smallest excuse. Couldn't do it today. So, you know, picking up your life and moving halfway across the world, would imagine. But like you said, I think once they're going to spend the money to speak with you, they're a bit more serious about it than the person just kind of talking to their friend at the bar about it. Let me ask you about schooling. I assume you homeschool, but I don't know that for certain.
Yes, I am a very big proponent of homeschooling, or what we affectionately called world schooling. So educating our children on the go. My daughter is 5 years old. She's been to 15 countries. She speaks English, Mandarin Chinese, and Spanish, all at native level. And she's learning Russian right now. We hire a private tutor 2 hours a day, every day, for private Russian lessons. I mean, that's the education we give her. I actually went out with a business partner and started an online program, an online school. It's called Expat International School. Well, the full title is called Expat International School of Freedom and Entrepreneurship. It really has a libertarian value chain that runs through it. And it's expatschool.io. You guys can find out more information. It is specifically made for international families, but it's also open to people who are still in the United States and just don't want their kids going through either public education or the traditional charter school or private school model. You know, we really focus on the belief patterns, on freedom, on entrepreneurship, how people can create value, critical thinking, these types of things. It's been a passion project of mine. We launched about a year or so ago, and it's been really good. Huge success. We got families from all over the world attending, and fully up and running.
But if your kids don't go to a public school, put a mask on and sit with a plexiglass thing around them, they're going to be socially weird.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
Yeah. That's, wow. How many languages? 5?
She speaks 3 languages at native level, and she's learning Russian as well. And different languages like English. Well, English and Spanish are quite similar, but Mandarin Chinese is as different as you get. And same with Russian. Russian is super, super different.
Incredible. Are there areas, well, let's ask you about your area, where you can get food from lots of different cultures, or once you're there, it's kind of Panamanian food for the most part?
I mean, tonight we're going out for Greek food. 2 nights ago, we went out for Panamanian. That was a treat for us. We went out for Argentinian steakhouse, a place called Gaucho's a couple days ago. We're out 3-4 nights a week at really nice restaurants. Lots of Asian food here, like everything you could possibly imagine in Panama. A lot of big cities are like that. Like Mexico City, you get anything and everything in the world. If you're going to be in a small rural village, then yeah, it's probably going to be slim pickings, but same as if you were to live in, rural United States, you're probably not going to have all those options either.
Right, yeah. What's the COVID hysteria like where you're at as far as hard rules or just soft ones and things people just obey no matter if they're a rule or not? I mean, I'll just preface it. I was in Mexico actually with Mark, Claire, I think at the end of last year. And there were certain areas where you would just see people in masks just doing their thing, and it wasn't even the rule to wear one. They just did it. Yeah. And so you still see that at some places. What is it like there in Panama, where you're at least?
There's still mask mandates here, which is ridiculous. I mean, none of the expats seem to be following them, but a lot of the locals, I think it's psychological damage. I mean, the media is really controlled down here, and they think that they're going to kill grandma, and so they all wear a mask, and it's really scary. From my understanding, the mask mandates are supposed to be going away in the next week or two. However, I would fully assume that people will continue to wear them because the psychological damage is just so deep. It's really criminal what they've done. Well, not just here, but all over the world with this.
Yeah, no kidding. It's you're going to have kids that grew up for a few years thinking that that's what adults look like, their face covered, and that's what they're supposed to do when they go out, and they'll feel more comfortable that way, which is sad. I want to ask you a little bit more about taxes. You said you haven't paid them in 20 years or so. How does it work? Do you put an LLC at an address where it's considered a tax shelter? How does that type of thing work?
No, all right. So I'm not giving individual tax advice. I can give you a little bit of education on some of the laws that are out there and some of the things that you might want to look into, either with me or with an international CPA or whomever. All right. First off the bat, I'm not an American citizen. So that is a big saving grace. There's only 2 countries in the world that tax based on your citizenship. The first is Eritrea. It's a small African country, and they're known for blatant human rights violations. It's basically a dictatorship. And the other one is the United States. So I will let you make your own assumptions about the tax system in the USA. Canada and most countries in the world function very, very similarly. You deregister yourself. So you go out there, you get another residency. You say, all right, Costa Rica is my home, and you get a residency there, a legal right to live and work there, and you tell the Canadian government or the British government or whomever it is that you are leaving. Official letter, you are leaving. You pay all applicable taxes. Whatever you owe them in taxes, you pay them, and then you go. And that, for most countries, is enough. Now, you're going to have tax obligations to the new country that you go to. But if you choose a good country or a country that is favorable in this regard, like Panama, Costa Rica, Belize, the UAE, like Dubai or something like this, there are ways that you don't have to pay any taxes. You have no tax obligation there. So the nice thing is when you deregister, you actually have no more, not just payment, but you don't even have to file anymore. You don't even have to send in the paperwork once it's done. So I haven't done a tax return in years and years and years. Now, from the US side is a little bit different. As a US citizen, you're going to have to file no matter what, no matter where you live in the world. And an LLC on an offshore country is not going to help you. But there are a couple of programs that are set up by the IRS. The first one, and the one that you want to look at, is called the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, FEIE. And I encourage you to go to the IRS website, type in Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, and look up what the rules are. This is going to allow you to basically not pay taxes on your first $110,000, call it round numbers, $110,000 tax-free. The nice thing is if your spouse is also an American citizen and she also moves offshore with you or becomes an expat with you, then it's a doubling effect. Now we're looking at $220,000 of non-taxable income from the US side. But there's a couple of caveats. We need to look at the actual wording here. So the first one is foreign. You actually have to be overseas. You can't be residing in the United States and expect that this is going to work. You need to be foreign. The second one is it has to be earned income, meaning that it can't be passive. It can't be interest or coupons or capital gains or something like that. It needs to be earned income. So you have a job or you own your own business and you pay yourself a salary, or say even if you are a professional trader and you trade for a living and this is legitimately what you do for a living, you can have a management company to manage the assets and you work in your company and you pay yourself a salary. Once again, discuss this with your CPA. These are my understanding of the laws, and as working through many clients with this and speaking to many lawyers about it, this is how it functions. So those are some good strategies. The only other thing that you need to understand on the foreign part is that you're going to have to qualify under one of two tests. The first one is called the physical presence test. And for that, it means you need to be inside a foreign country for a minimum of 330 days. That doesn't mean just outside of the United States. It means in a foreign country, your feet on the ground in a country. So if you are sailing around the world in a beautiful yacht, you're in international waters, that doesn't count. If you're taking a flight from Houston to Paris and you're flying over the Atlantic Ocean, well, that's not going to count either. So you need to be very careful on how you count your dates. So that's the first one we do. We try to qualify you for the physical presence test. On year 2, we can do what's called the bona fide residency test. So we get you a residency here in Panama. Going back to Panama as an example, you have a legal right to live and work here. Then we start showing strong ties to the community. So we get you a bank account, a company formation. You buy a car, you rent an apartment. If you're religious, you go to the local church. If you play sports, you join the football team, or you join the squash club, or you go to the gym. We build a case that Panama is your home. This is your life. This is your tax home, And I mean, we really have to do it. This is not like, hey, this is fake and pretend. No, you actually have to do this type of stuff. But if we do the physical presence test, as you would notice, 330 days, that means you can spend roughly 4 weeks back in the USA. That's an objective measure. That's mathematics, okay? The bona fide residency test is more subjective. So you can spend a little bit more time. The exact amount of time, I can't really tell you. It's going to be based on your situation. But you can expect to spend maybe 60, maybe 90 days based on your facts, okay? So if you don't like what's happening, then we need to change your facts. And we would work together on all of these types of things to legally help you reduce or hopefully eliminate your tax bill. Does that make sense?
It does. It does, yes. I hate to just keep giving you, what about this situation? What about this? But you know so much and I know so little about this. What about someone who's basically going to be on a pension? And this isn't for the tax question necessarily. If they get a pension from somewhere in the US, a company that they worked for a long time, is it at that point easier to kind of move them to wherever because there's less hurdles to get by as far as forming a new company in some small place or getting online? If they're just looking to enjoy retirement, what type of hurdles are they facing?
Yeah, it can be easier if you're a retiree. I mean, if you want to go down to Mexico and you tell them, hey, I'm a retiree and I get $2,000 a month in my Social Security, I mean, they will welcome you with open arms because what you're doing is you're bringing in non-tax dollars into the country and you're not going to be using a lot of the services anyways. And that's just free money going into the economy. A lot of countries will have some type of retirement visa, but there'll be a lot of stipulations on that. So if you're on a retirement visa, that means that you can't work. that means you can't even run an online business or anything like that. So it's not like you're going to have some type of a side hustle. If you're going to go and retire, then you probably really want to retire there. With a lot of the other permanent residency visas, you actually have the right to live and work in that country. In some of them, you can even get a local job. You could go down there to McDonald's and start working there. It wouldn't really matter, you know? Also, with the retirement visas, you have to check. Some of them can lead to naturalization, but a lot of them will never lead to becoming a citizen. So, for example, Panama, if you're on the rentista visa, then your chances of getting a citizenship here are very, very low. But if you're on an investor visa, your chances are very, very high. But the difference is, on one, you've brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars on the front end, and on the other, you're just showing, a very low amount on a pension. But yes, there are different ways to work through this based on your financial situation or your wants or likes or needs or any of these types of things. Like I said earlier, many ways to skin the cat here.
Yeah, certainly. All right. Well, I got to respect your time here. I would ask in closing, for those listening who have been on the fence about this type of idea and it sounds attractive to them and they're still a little worried, obviously I know some advice would be, well, contact you and we can work and discuss this. But broadly, is there any type of advice or things to think about that you would let them know now?
This is my advice. If you are losing sleep at night because of this, if you are stressed out because of what's happening in the world, if you don't agree with it and you don't want your tax dollars to go and support a lot of the programs that are being implemented right now, then yes, I think that you should do something. If nothing else, for your own peace of mind, so that you have a more peaceful life. I think it is well worth the time, energy, effort, and money to go through these types of things. And if things really do get better, you will be so thankful that you have this in place. It will be a massive sigh of relief. While everyone else is running around like headless chickens and they don't know what to do, you know you are safe, that you, your family, your kids, your loved ones are all protected. And even if your family, they're not on board with all these types of things, there's so much stuff you can do to help protect your family without them having to do all of the work themselves. So there's so many steps here. I don't really know what else has to happen in the world for people to get motivated about these things. Like, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've been talking about it for just so long. And it was, I used to be the lone guy on the mountain yelling about these things that you need to protect yourself, you need to protect yourself. And now it's like CNN does my marketing for me. I mean, every press release that Justin Trudeau does, it's just like, wow, like I couldn't write this stuff. I couldn't make this up. In my wildest dreams over the last 10 years, I couldn't have imagined how bad things would get. So it's like, make a move right now. Start working through these types of things. Yes, it's going to cost some money. Yes, it's going to be a little bit of work and a little bit of education. But what's the alternative, really?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's time for you also now to plug away. You've got a lot to plug. Let's do as you please.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm only going to plug one thing. We just started a new website. I've been using expatmoneyshow.com for years and years and years. I went out there and struck a deal and purchased expatmoney.com. Cost me a solid 4 figures to get it, but I'm very excited about it. My work is more than just a podcast or a newsletter or our Facebook group or all of these types of things. My main thing that I do now is work one-on-one with people. I really get a huge kick out of helping people one-on-one. I like seeing the transformation in their faces light up and, speaking to them, on day one and then on 6 months later and looking at all the things we've accomplished, like getting a second residency, getting a second passport, an offshore trust or foundation, a different structure, a gold vault, all of these types of things. And it all fits together and everything makes sense. And there's this light bulb moment in someone. It's amazing. I love it. So if you guys go to expatmoney.com, there's going to be more resources there. I just put out a new special report on how to get a second residency or a second passport. You can pick that up. There's no charge for that. If you do want to work with me one-on-one, if you need my advice, you see a big orange button in the top right-hand corner. It'll say work with us. There's an important letter there that I want you to read. Go through that, spend 15 minutes, read it through, fill out the application form at the end, and I'm here to help. That's all this is about. I want to help you guys, okay?
Awesome. I will link to that. You guys can remember that, expatmoney.com. But like I said, I will put a link in the show notes page for this episode. Mikkel, Thorup, that was awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate this.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that chat with Mikkel Thorup. And like he said, go over to his new site, expatmoney.com, and check that out. He's got a lot to offer. Obviously, you know that at this point. And thank you guys for being with me here once again. For us, let's see, we got counterflowpodcast.com. We've got the YouTube page. Please go hit subscribe on there if you've not done so already. All of these interviews I do are on YouTube as well. You can watch us do them or listen however you'd like. And if you appreciate this show and you'd like to give something to it, every penny you guys give me goes right back into the show. I promise you that. And you can do that at patreon.com/counterflow. And let's see, next week I've got a good one. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but here's the hints. He's a returning guest. He's one of my favorites. He is hardcore. Maybe the best follow on Twitter right now, especially on the right wing. He's been on Tucker Carlson many times, and you will just have to wait and see. You guys have an excellent week. Again, thank you for being here, and thank you for letting me into your life for about an hour. Have a good one.
You get split in fucking half, like on the hologram graph. But I am the center inside the placenta of math. You clash with cyanide gas and die fast. Rhythmical equivalent of solids, liquid and gas. We smash your sinus with the power of Lord Titus. But I am the virus inside of the iris of Cyrus.
Like the sound of the Counterflow podcast? Our audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.